Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Boxing, Weights and Rugby YouTube channel. Let's talk rugby! So ladies and gentlemen, as your reward for making it through January, this weekend we have the Calcutta Cup match. England versus Scotland down at Twickenham. And I thought what we could do to get excited over it is we would go through basically the teams, have a little chat about exactly what we think is going to go on in the game, and then do a little prediction right at the end. So first things first, I put together my own Scotland 23 to play England. I did this on Tuesday. The assumption being that absolutely everybody was fit. So we're now going to have a little look at that, and I'll walk you through my selection and some of the bolder choices I went to make. We'll then compare that to the teams that were selected by Gregor Townsend and new England coach Steve Borthwick. So as you can see, assuming that everybody's fit, I went with the standard Scotland front row of Schoeman, Turner and Fagerson. Scotland's in-form second row, Richie Gray, and first controversial selection here is Sam Skinner. I'm a big fan of Sam, having seen him play a good number of times for Scotland in the flesh, and he had a great game against Saracens for Edinburgh, so I picked Sam at the second row. The back three really picks itself. Jamie Ritchie is the captain, hoping to kick on from what wasn't his finest Autumn Nation series. Hamish Watson, when fit, is an absolute must pick, and Matt Fagerson has really grown into the role as Scotland's number 8, and I'm very impressed with him. Now, moving on into the back line, there were some more controversial picks to be had. So again, this was my pick, and I did this together on Tuesday. I had Ben White at number 9. Recently, having watched the Autumn Nation series and Glasgow's performances, I think Ali Price, while a fantastic scrum half, has been playing below his best, and I think Ben White has really shown some promising developments for Scotland, has been playing very well for London Irish. So I had Ben White in at scrum half, alongside the obvious pick at fly half, which was Finn Russell. The midfield was another contentious area. Toi Pilotu was fantastic in the Autumn Nation series, and I think that Hugh Jones, the axis him and Toi Pilotu have come up with at Glasgow, has been absolutely fantastic to watch. And Chris Harris, whilst being Scotland's defensive stalwart, has not been at his finest for Gloucester and for Scotland. So I think I went for a change in the centre. I went for the dynamic axis of Toi Pilotu and Jones, or Huey Pilotu as it is now known online. Then on the wing, the only real selection was who's going to replace Darcy Graham. I went for Maitland. I think Sean Maitland's been playing fantastically for Saracens and has never let Scotland down once. So nice simple choice for me was Maitland. On the bench, again assuming everybody was fit, I went with Brown, Sutherland and Nell, which is a really solid backup three front row, and I think very much that's where the game is won and lost a lot of the time. This would be Johnny Gray on the bench, with his brother starting, Luke Crosby, who's been in sensational form for Edinburgh, as the backup back row, as well as Jack Dempsey for Glasgow, Ali Price at scrum half on the bench, and then Blair Kinghorn on the bench, who is a fantastic all-round player and has unfortunately got a lot of stick. They didn't necessarily deserve, having been shoehorned into 10, but he can cover 10, both wings, and 15 as well. So this was the 15. I'll just run you through it again. So we had Schoeman, Turner and Fagerson in the front row, Richie Gray and Sam Skinner at second row, Jamie Ritchie, Hamish Watson and Matt Fagerson rounding off the forwards, with Ben White and Finn Russell at scrum half and fly half, Duhan van der Merwe and Sean Maitland on the wing, with Toi Pilotu and Hugh Jones at centre and Stuart Hogg at fullback. So now, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a little look at the actual Scotland team selected by Gregor Townsend that came out on Thursday morning, and very surprisingly, some of my more controversial picks were echoed by Gregor, which is a very worrying sign, I think, for all involved. Now, the front row is the first area we had a little look at, and at tight head we had WP Nell, this confirming that Xander Fagerson was not fit enough to start the game, and actually didn't even make it into the matchday squad, which is a big concern for Scotland given our lack of depth at tight head. We look on into the second row. Not surprising to see Grant Gilchrist in there, who's been, again, very consistent for Edinburgh and is a fabulous line-out operator. And I think this forward pack really shows that Scotland are going to look to target England at set-piece time, especially the line-out and at the scrum, to try and offset them. Luke Crosby rewarded for his form at Edinburgh with the 7 shirt. Again, looks like Hamish Watson wasn't fit enough to make it into the matchday squad. We then go into the back line, and we went with Toi Polotu and Jones in the centre, which was a big call to drop Chris Harris. Now, actually, a lot of Scotland's British and Irish Lions team, British and Irish Lions players, haven't made it into this selection. There's no Rory Sutherland. There is no Ali Price in the whole 13, if we start to have a look at the replacements. And Chris Harris dropped to the bench. It's been a very interesting selection, but very aggressive from Townsend. A lot to like about that back line. Kyle Steyn given the nod over Sean Maitland on the wing, given his form and captaincy for Glasgow again. Not hugely surprising, but Ben White at scrum half. There's a lot of changes in this, but I like it. Gregor Townsend's clearly rewarding form, especially for Glasgow and Edinburgh. The major area I have for concern, if we now look down at the replacement, is that front row. Fraser Brown, Jamie Batty and Simon Bergen. So the Scotland's bomb squad as it was doesn't fill you with a lot of confidence, in my opinion. Jamie Batty is very good around the park. Simon Bergen's career's not kicked on with the way we would like, and that is something that concerns me around the 60-minute mark as Gregor starts to make changes in the front row. How will Scotland's set piece continue, especially around scrum time? Johnny Gray, Jack Dempsey, really good options off the bench, and it's very interesting to see he's gone with a 5-3. Now, for those of you that don't follow rugby, a 6-2 split is where there are 6 forwards on the bench compared to 2 backs. Gregor's gone for the slightly more attacking 5-3, so 5 forwards with George Horne rather than Ali Price being on the bench. George Horne is a very attacking scrum half, and makes sense to have him on the bench if you're really going to go for it in the last few minutes. Burke Kinghorn on the bench there to cover both fly half, the wings and fullback, and Chris Harris is the obvious choice to cover at centre. Now, whether Chris Harris comes on and changes the game if you're going for things, or is he there to come on and add some assurance? And to be fair to Chris Harris, he is a Lion. So, a very promising team all round from Scotland, outside of the fact that I have some concerns about the front row on the bench. We'll now have a little look and compare that to the England team. Again, it's a very interesting team. Less changes from Eddie Jones's England team compared to Steve Borthwick's. This looks fairly similar. You still have Marcus Smith and Owen Farrell as the 10-12 axis. Joe Merchant's been playing really well, and the fantastic Freddie Stewart in at fullback. The wings are an interesting area of concern for England. I would like to see how Max Malins, who has a lot of potential, has been playing, as well as Ollie Hassel-Collins, who, again, I haven't seen a great deal of, so it'll be interesting to see. But it's the forward pack. England tend to very much have a lot of grunt up front. We have Genge, George and Sinclair, which is England's standard front row, which will be very interesting to see how that works at scrum time. But the Scotland boys have had some success against that front row in the past, but it's more, again, if you look into the bench, how will Scotland's replacement match up against the likes of Dan Coles, Villapolas, who are both former British and Irish Lions, as well as Jack Walker at hooker. The fantastic Mario Itoje, Ben Curry and Alex Donbrandt is a very dynamic back row for England. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to go through some keys to victories for both England and Scotland. And we're going to start with Scotland. And the first major key to victory is getting their key backs on the ball as regular as possible. One of Scotland's major problems is they have weapons like Darcy Graham, who's out injured, but Duhan van der Merwe, Stuart Hogg, and in this case Hugh Jones and Kyle Steyn. Very efficient backs, very electric backs, and they don't get them into the game often enough. So their major game plan has to be to get the ball in the hands of those backs. No one better to do that than Finn Russell at fly half. So key to victory for that is getting the ball into Finn Russell's hands, and it will get to everybody else just from there. The next key to victory is to target the England set piece. So Scotland specifically need to be targeting the scrum and the lineouts, and this is what the players have got to do. Grant Gilchrist is specifically brought into the team to target and disrupt England's lineout, while Schoeman, Turner and Nell are Scotland's best scrummagers, so they're going to try and get in there and disrupt it as much as they can early on. The final key to victory will be a little bit more specific, and it's a tactical kicking manoeuvre that Scotland employ a lot, which is a box kick chase for Duhan van der Merwe down the wing. Okay, so England's opposite winger is Max Malins, who's a fabulous attacking player, but at 5'10", 5'11", is significantly smaller than van der Merwe, who is fantastic at regaining Scotland's own kicks. And this is 3 keys to victories for Scotland to get into to try and get the win at Twickenham. For England, the major thing they've got going for them is the unknown. Steve Borthwick, the new coach. How are England going to come out and behave? You know, how are they going to play? What sort of style are they going for? Scotland don't know this, whereas England have a good idea of what Gregor Townsend's Scotland look like. Add that to the fact that they'll be playing in front of Twickenham for the first time with full crowd and Steve Borthwick. The England team will be very much up for this game. The next part of that is England's own kicking game, which is a massive weapon in itself. And particularly what they will look to do is they will look to target the ruck after the kick. Okay, so it's a favourite tactic of Steve Borthwick at Leicester's, where they will kick deep, they will chase hard, but then they will target the ruck or two after that initial chase to try and gain the turnovers. And lastly, it's the benches. And I think this is going to be the key outcome for the game. Scotland's bench is a significant drop off from the starting front row. This is not the case for England, who have both Dan Coles and Mako Vilipola on the bench as props. These are 2 former British and Irish Lions. And I'm concerned that as the game goes on, what I think will then happen is as the front rows change, Scotland will start to leak penalties. And I think ultimately, being in front of a home crowd, that deeper bench, I think this is what will ultimately get England over the line and win the Calcutta Cup by about a score, so 5 to 7 points is my official prediction, much to my own disgust. Once again, thank you everybody for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Let us know in the comment section which sports you are here for. Drop a B for boxing, an R for rugby and a W for weightlifting. And with that, we will leave you with this classic Scotland try against England to set us all up for the Calcutta Cup match.
Decent for the men in blue. Oh, Russell! Oh, it works now! Hugh Jones in the open! And Hugh Jones is alone, looking for Seymour! Hugh Jones goes himself! Johnny May gets to him! But Scotland suddenly into the England 22. Ryan Wilson feeds on. Barkley looks for support. Laidlaw, wide it goes. McInally through the middle. McInally still going. Farrell gets him down. And Scotland within metres of the line, out wide, it comes to Maitland.